I will start by saying welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our group chat today for the month of May, where today we're going to be talking about everything analytics. So I want to give a big shout out to Marketing Pilot for sponsoring us today. Without them, these probably would not exist because it's thanks to sponsors like them that keep our website going and pay for our email licenses every month. So thank you, Marketing Pilot, for that. And also ask questions, please. This is here for you guys to get as much out of it. Squeeze our experts for everything they're worth. It's a safe zone for everyone. No question is too stupid. These are really the experts in the room today. So they've seen it all and they had to start somewhere too. So please don't be shy to put it in the chat. And Michelle, Anya's on vacation this week. So we have Michelle, who's the behind the scenes, who's usually quite quiet on these calls, but she's always there. She's going to be one monitoring the chat today. And if I forget a question, because, you know, talking and reading at the same time is hard, she will pipe in and answer any questions that I have missed out on. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our three panels today. We have Shayna Webster, we have Amanda Sherry, and Mike Reed with us today. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Amanda, how about you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. My name is Amanda Sherry. I'm the Director of Marketing for the professional services industry with HSO. I have over 15 years of marketing experience. Analytics is something I've been drawn to very early in my career, really advocating for myself, proving my worth, and showing that campaigns and marketing could be successful. I've been in the channel for a little over 7 years. I started at a different partner before coming on board with HSO.
Thank you, Amanda, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm Marketing Manager, Demand Generation at Encore Business Solutions. Encore's been a Dynamics partner since 1990, serving customers across North America. My responsibilities or my pleasures at work include analytics. That was in fact the feature of marketing that first drew me to marketing, knowing that I was going to be able to measure results, learn about customers, and then feed it back into the decision process. So analytics, I also do search engine optimization, writing, and best practices for Encore, and also website technical projects and some of our interactive content comes with me. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Woo. I will probably say that another 20 times, so just, get used to it. Shayna, why don't you tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Shayna Webster. I'm the Senior Demand Generation Manager at SourceDay. I've been with SourceDay working in the supply chain industry for just about a year. It'll be a year next month. And then I've been in marketing for about 10 years, based out of Austin, Texas. My background is actually in content and social media. And then I learned analytics and all that good stuff, Salesforce, Marketo, all the fun things we're buried in every day, kind of on the job. So that's been a more recent experience for me and has quickly become kind of the foundation of my marketing career. So really excited to talk with you guys today, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump into this. So you guys kind of told us all a bit about what you do, but why do you feel that it's so important to track marketing stats? Mike, why don't you kick us off?
So I find that marketing or tracking stats in marketing is so important for two big reasons. One is experimentation. Experimentation is to find out what works or what's working for your audience this year, this quarter. My favorite thing about having metrics for experimentation is it means you can trust your gut to try something crazy and new, something that's never been done before, but you can say to the stakeholders, the people holding the budget, I don't know if this is going to work, but here's how we'll measure it. And then if it's working, we can scale it up. And if it's not, we can scale it down. So that's the experimentation side. I love the numbers of it, but also how it enables you to get buy-in for just some crazy creative idea that might work or might not. And the second thing is inspiration. In other words, inspiring leaders, teammates, or especially I find the subject matter experts I need help from for content, inspiring them to understand why it's important to pitch in, work on whatever project you're working on now. And I find that individual user journeys and metrics from individual pieces of content that have got attention, that really seems to motivate them to understand, oh, this is why I'm going to talk to the marketer for half an hour about my area of expertise.
And I think you're right. Credibility is so important. Like, people think in marketing, you just have crazy ideas and you do things on a whim, but they don't realize that in the background, there's a lot of numbers that back it up. And being in the IT space, we work with a lot of very structured folk, and it's important to have those numbers to back it up. No, those very true. Amanda, what about you? Why do you think tracking is so important?
Well, I think it's important both professionally and personally. So professionally, it's really important to justify the ROI, to make sure that they understand the importance of marketing and how it affects the entire cycle, from just brand awareness through customer advocacy. Metrics help you understand whether you're hitting your target audience, because you have to communicate to everyone in a different way, with different text, with different types of content. So metrics help you track whether you're hitting your audience. And it helps you optimize campaigns. So instead of doing the same thing over and over again and getting nowhere, those metrics help you revisit things, go back and figure out what you can or can't change to help save you time actually down the line. Personally, as I mentioned before, it helps you validate your worth. If you can show what influence and impact you have, that's going to help you with career advancements. It's going to help you with a budget too. That's both personally and professionally, because personally, if you have the budget, you can do more fun things, takes less stress off you. But it helps you become a better marketer overall, and really know that and show that you can understand your audience and affect the bottom line of a company.
I love that you brought that personal side to it, because as marketers, sometimes they're like, anybody can do that. Anyone can put a picture up on a screen. And for people to understand that there's a lot more to it, and that, you know, that credibility aspect to numbers, people can't question. So love it. Let's keep going. So what are your most important marketing metrics? We have a lot of different marketing metrics we want to hit, so we're going to try to hit them one at a time. So let's start with web. I think that is a hot topic for everyone. So we're going to go around the table, and Shayna, how about you start us off by what kind of marketing metrics do you track, and how, and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so it's so funny. So I manage the entire SourceDay website, and kind of how we build stories there, what the layout is, down to like the smallest detail of like, should this button be green or blue kind of thing. And kind of to the point of the first question, I realized the other day, since I'm the only one doing the A/B testing on the website, I'm the only person who really knows the results. And so thus I was implementing stuff on the site with like no foresight. No one else really knew. They just knew things were going well. So I put together a presentation that kind of showed, here's how it was, here's what we tested, here's the result, and kind of shared it with the executive team. And they were like, oh, I had no idea you were doing this. I didn't even know you were spending time doing this. And I was like, yeah, well, so that's kind of the importance of metrics, right? Is to like prove your job. But for the web, I think, websites and the way people shop online, whether you're an e-commerce business or B2B or what have you, has completely changed most of our business plans and the way that we approach marketing. I think the website and content are such a cornerstone of what you should be looking at when you're developing your marketing plan. So I think at the bare minimum, right, when say you're a startup and you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out what to look at, get your website set up on Google Analytics and just take a peek, right? You want to see how many people are visiting your site, how long they're staying, right? That's a big metric we've looked at over time. We've noticed that people are staying on our website, 2 years ago, they were on there for 30 seconds. Now, on average, they're on there 2 minutes, right? And it's like, we're capturing their attention. How many pages are they visiting? Are they coming to the homepage and leaving? Are they exploring 2 to 3 pages? Are you, that'll tell you if you're linking throughout the site properly, if you're gaining interest. And then, as you mature a little bit and you're, maybe you're integrated with Marketo, maybe you're integrated with Salesforce, you can really dig deeper into those kind of form fills and those lead gen trackings. Are people filling out the form on your website to learn more? If you're an e-commerce company, what are your purchases looking like? How are people getting there? And kind of monitoring those numbers over time. I think all of that is just really critical to know if you're being successful on the web, right? And another arm of that is like your search engine optimization, your keyword tracking, making sure you're showing up for what you're selling, what people are searching for. That can get a little complex and complicated depending on how big your budget is to use some really nice tools that do a lot of that for you. But technically it can't all be done manually. Just, watch a lot of YouTube videos and figure out how to track it yourself.
Oh no, I definitely watch a lot of YouTube videos, and you're talking about Google Analytics. I think the best piece of advice I got when we were working with our first SEO company was, you're not going to break Google Analytics. You just click around and you can see stuff. You're not going to break anything. I'm like, okay. And then I started clicking around. So that's really just get it going. So no, very good advice. Amanda, what about you?
So I think for all of my answers here, I think the metrics really depend on where your campaign sits in the funnel, and you need to adjust it accordingly. So, is it a top of the funnel? Or are you just focused on brand awareness? Is it middle of the funnel, or are you specifically looking for the bottom of the funnel? So my company right now is very focused on conversions, pipeline, revenue. So a lot of my answers are going to be more looking at how the bottom of the funnel and the conversion. So for web, I like to look at events, what people are doing on the site, where they're going, how they're interacting with the content that's on the site, directly into conversions. Where are they converting the most? Where they came from, and is that what the medium that they came from? Does that increase the amount of conversions? And then exit pages. I think exit pages are something that not a lot of people look at in depth. You really need to see where people are leaving your site, and if you can optimize those pages to get people to take an action before they do. So I use Google Analytics. Google Analytics has really great free training online. You can get certifications. Just devoting the time to get it done, I think I strongly recommend. If you're not used to Google Analytics, I used to use a site called Sife at my previous position. It's really easy third-party site. I think it was like $90 for the year, where it connects to a lot of your different marketing platforms and systems. And if you don't know where to go within Google Analytics, you can just create a widget in Sife, and then you can have a dashboard where you can see all your widgets and what you want to follow. So first piece of advice, check out Google Analytics and their training, especially with G4 coming. Everyone should be moving towards G4. If you're not, you should get on it as soon as possible. So that's we have to all redo our training and our knowledge with G4, because it's different user experience than Universal.
Yeah, I really like the call out of exit pages. That is so important. Of like, if people aren't filling out a form, did they get to it and they left before they filled it out? Or did they not even get there and you lost them on a different page, right? And it's like, how do we optimize that funnel of getting people to where we want them to, become an opportunity? So it's a really good point.
Also, another recommendation for a program, if no one is using Hotjar
Hotjar is great.
Amazing program you can put on your website, very cheap. It will show you where people are clicking on the site that you may not have hyperlinked. I previously inherited a website where the logo was not hyperlinked back to the homepage, and we had home next to it, but no one was clicking the word home. Everyone was clicking something that wasn't hyperlinked. So we made that modification, and that freed up navigation space. So Hotjar shows you how far people are scrolling, where they're clicking, it does heat maps. So that's a really great, if you're looking for interaction with the website, use Hotjar.
Yeah. Get the popcorn ready and just start rolling through those things. They're super interesting to look at, to be like, really? And things you wouldn't
did not expect.
People, And it's really, it is a very entertaining, not just entertaining, but insightful tool to use. What about you, Mike?
Thank you, first of all, to both Amanda and Sherry for talking about the exit pages and importance of Google Analytics. Amanda mentioned Google Analytics 4. You got to kind of rethink your understanding of how things work. It's really different under the hood. It's not like the interface is different, which is a bit of a hassle, but also underneath, like the actual engine that's driving it is more flexible, and therefore you need to spend more time configuring it, or more thought, or pay somebody to configure it properly for you. So it really does take some effort to make that switch. So for most important metrics, I like to work upwards from revenue. So when I started at Encore, one of the first things I looked at was which marketing channels our traffic, our leads, and our revenue were coming from. And I realized that on our website, we had a certain lead magnet that was generating a huge amount of traffic, like the most traffic of any page to the site. And it was generating tons of leads. And a bunch of those leads became opportunities that were talking to salespeople. But if I looked in the CRM at the actual revenue, there was no closed deals. There was $0 of revenue. Whereas there are other parts of our website that were generating way less traffic and way fewer, but higher quality leads. They're actually making a significant amount of revenue. So once you know where the revenue is coming from, then you can figure out, kind of work backwards. How are they getting to that part of our website where the valid or the valuable conversions are happening? And if that's organic search, or if that's paid search, or if that's LinkedIn, then that becomes your important metric. How are they getting to our website from those places? And then how do they behave on our website when they get there? What's the time on site, time on page, and so on?
And I think all of you kind of touched upon it. It's, okay, what are your objectives? We're not here, well, what is our worth? Is it really top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? And kind of work back from there to have your personas in line and who's buying, who's actually buying. Those tire kickers, it's fun to like see all those leads come in, but at the end of the day, if they're not converting, then we have to be putting our money somewhere else. And I think by having all these metrics in place, it allows you the chance to be like, yeah, we're getting all these leads coming in, but if they're not doing anything, let's focus somewhere else. So no.
I also
and
think
even
like
the
it's so good to also remember, like, this is really difficult depending on where you are in your career and where your company is. I mean, I've worked in startups that had 10 employees. You know, I was number 11 and I was the only marketer, and they were like, oh, figure it out, right? Here's a website, it's yours now. And, you know, when you're working under budget constraints and I mean, education constraints, I was fresh out of college. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I was just like, yeah, okay, look, 1,000 people came to our website yesterday. And they're like, great. And I'm like, and what? And so sometimes it can be difficult to break out of that mindset of just like big number, good number, right? And make me feel good. And it's like, well, you know, again, like you have to really push yourself to see the bottom line, whatever your bottom line might be, whether it's a form fill or a closed op or, you know, whatever it is you're looking at. And even if you don't have the structure to like track that, you know, seamlessly, like there is a way to figure it out, right? And it's kind of like, that's what makes a good marketer, is like the person who's hungry to figure it out and isn't just okay with like 1,000 people came to our website. It's like, well, and
And for you out there who's like, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out myself, or I'm busy on other things, there are a lot of firms out there who can help, and start with them. They will structure you. They'll point you in the right direction of where to look. So at least when you're starting from zero, you feel like someone will point you in the right direction. And then after that, you can Google, YouTube, and all those fun things away, but at least you have that base starting point. So don't feel scary. Don't be scared to hire those experts. Like you guys were saying, things change all the time. So it's a full-time job in itself for some firms. So don't be scared, or find an expert, and Google is your best friend. And YouTube, I YouTube a lot. From a
absolutely.
social aspect, metrics wise, Amanda, what kind of stuff do you look at from that standpoint?
So for organic posts, I really look at engagement and clicks, but paid. So for the LinkedIn paid ad, something that we'll get to in a little bit. I really did a lot of experimentation with that in 2020. And for paid ads, I'm really looking at conversions, cost per click. If it's a video ad, I look at it as more brand awareness. So that's more of the top of the funnel. I'll look at video plays and view through. And you have to not just look at it, but understand what the benchmark is and how you compare to that benchmark. So on LinkedIn video ads, we were having a 22% for one campaign. I was like, oh, only 22% view through. But then I spoke with LinkedIn and they're like, our average is 20. So you're actually above average. And then I worked with them, made some modifications, and now our view through is 25%. So understanding where the benchmark normal is will help you feel better about the metrics that you're producing.
And I think that's why we're all here today. Misery loves company and all that. Sometimes I have my little marketing groups. I'll be like, why does this happen? You're not alone. I think we're all kind of living the same thing. So if you need benchmarks and stuff like that, reach out to your other fellow marketers. You'd be surprised how much you have in common, and you feel better after. You're like, oh, 25%, look at me, high five. Like, so that's good advice to keep you sane and keep you not drinking every night. Or maybe, you know, I know.
You could do that too.
Oh, yeah.
I always recommend a glass of wine while you're on LinkedIn. That's all you need.
Yeah. That's how I got roped into this in the first place. So beware. Let's circle back now. Shayna, what do you guys track from a social perspective?
Yeah. So I definitely think that social can be a black hole sometimes, especially if you're doing B2B marketing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's API sucks for marketers. You know, like we don't get as much insight as we would love to have, especially if you're only focusing on organic. Their paid is better. If you're doing paid ads, definitely work with your LinkedIn account manager, utilize them as much as possible. They are like your number one resource for why isn't this working or how do I make this better? And I think a lot of people just don't utilize that relationship. I've been managing organic social for my whole career, and I think the biggest thing is getting out of the mindset of like more followers equals success, because, you know, particularly in B2B, and if you're working in like a really specific industry or more old school industry, like supply chain, for example, manufacturing, you know, LinkedIn is your bread and butter. That your customers aren't on Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok, right? And so you really got to find them where they're at. And LinkedIn can be tough organically. You know, LinkedIn doesn't want big companies succeeding organically on there, right? They want to be about the person, about the job experience. So I think looking at your posting and, you know, measuring that engagement rate, that is crucial, right? It doesn't matter how many people follow you if only one person is liking your stuff every day, right? Like, I'd rather have.
And it's usually yourself, like.
Right, or your mom or something. And so, you know, I'd rather have 50 fully engaged, commenting, sharing followers than 500 who never look at my stuff, right? It's the same on Instagram, the same on Twitter, like all of that stuff. It's about that engagement and that the good like sharing that you're getting, as opposed to just people clicking the follow button. And then on the other side, I think there's a ton of research out there about what works, particularly on LinkedIn, but really every social media platform. I mean, there's tons of data of best times to post, best days, you know. Some surprising stuff about LinkedIn is like weekend posts work really well, which I would not expect because I'm not getting on LinkedIn on the weekend. So I'm not sure who is, but it works. I don't, you know, so like, but there's so much data out there, just like do the Google research, right? Benchmarking can be really scary if you have zero idea where to start. I always get asked those questions. You know, you're in a meeting, you're digging into the data, and then your CRO goes, do we know the industry benchmark for this? And you're like, oh God, no idea, but I think we're doing okay. So Google it. Sprout Social, if you've ever heard of them, does a really good state of social media report every year with a breakdown industry benchmarks by industry. I know Twitter does their own, you know, you can find that stuff out there. And I really like the idea of reaching out to your other friends in marketing. I have a ton of friends who work in marketing, obviously from school and other jobs. And yeah, if you're ever like, I have no idea if this is a good number, just reach out and be like, what are you getting? You know, like, do you want to chat? I think, yeah, reaching out to your network is great.
Danica asks, is anyone TikToking? Have you ventured into that world for B2B?
Not for work, just for fun.
At Bamboom, we've started TikToking, but mostly from a recruitment standpoint. I would say it's more the engagements of what's going on from a recruitment standpoint or a personal life standpoint. They haven't convinced me to dance yet, but I have pointed. So I'm sure it's coming though. But yeah, we don't use a more of an overall general branding perspective rather than a professional standpoint. Because to your points before, I don't think presidents are there's that many TikToking just yet. So you know, it's coming. Amy asks, what is the typical cost of a LinkedIn ad?
That
Does
depends what
anyone?
Well, it depends what type of ad you're running. LinkedIn has like 20 plus different variations of ads that you can do. Um, Text ads are cheaper because it's actually a cost per click. You get much higher impressions. The cost per click can be around $11, $12, which seems like a lot, but you're not getting as many clicks. So like your daily spend isn't as high as something as like a video ad or a sponsored content or an event ad. You get to choose you can do an overall budget within your campaign. You can do a start date and an end date and do an overall budget, or you can do a daily budget. When you go through the steps to set up a LinkedIn campaign, it will tell you what they recommend as a spend. Like conversion ads, conversation ads, and direct mail ads were something that performed really well back when the pandemic started. And I think the send rate is usually around 40 cents. Sometimes it can be around as high as 80 cents. There's different algorithms. They only target people that are active and online for the send. The engagement, I think, is higher, but those metrics are really hard to read on LinkedIn because what they have as the opens is really the impressions or the sent, and what they have as the clicks is really the opens. So they've trying to redefine marketing metrics, and I don't think it's going very well, but you just need to be mindful of that. So I've had successful campaigns that I've spent a couple $100s on. I've had campaigns that I've spent a couple thousand on. I'm a huge advocate of UTMs and using them for everything. And with that, you're not only tracking the number, like you can figure out a conversion from a campaign, but is that quality? Or is it just fluff that you're passing along to sales and saying like, oh, this is great, contact them. And sales is like, nah, absolutely not. It's terrible. Why are you giving this to me? So UTM really helps you track the quality of leads and lets you know whether a LinkedIn campaign conversation ad or a LinkedIn campaign single image ad brought you these opportunities, which then turned into customers. So I think that's like a really long-winded way of saying it depends on your campaign. It depends on your strategy, but you can set budgets with typical single image ads or sponsored content sponsored content. I do around $10 or $15 a day. And I just track it. I go in there every single day and I look at where my spend is and whether it's working for me and whether I'm getting anything from it.
Well, we're in the subject of ads. Mike, what about you in regards to ads? What are you tracking? What are you looking at from that standpoint?
Sure. First of all, yes, Amanda, UTMs for life. They're wonderful. I'm putting a link in the chat for a Google sheet that gives you kind of a template for generating your UTMs and tracking them. Because if you track everything with UTM, you're going to have hundreds of combinations of the different variables that you go in there. And if you don't put that somewhere centralized, and if you're collaborating with the team, you are going to lose track of what your data means. You can see the UTS, but you don't want that. Anyway, I'm putting that spreadsheet in. Let me know if that works. I downloaded that and then just put in my own variables, and we use that internally at Encore for UTMs for everything. For ads, I've got a couple of things to follow up about LinkedIn that I got from my LinkedIn ads rep. Yes, LinkedIn ads reps can be awesome. One is the recommended spend, at least on recommended bid on LinkedIn ads is not always the right thing to start with. You can often start below the recommended bid if you're willing to wait a few days or weeks to see if it works. The recommended bid is often several dollars too high, and you can save yourself some money by coming in below that and wait a little bit and see if the data suggests that you're actually getting the impressions and the clicks that you want. Something else, I just want to flag, text ads are fun. Our LinkedIn ads rep call them the free impression generator because they were so cheap, and thousands and thousands of people are going to see that text ad and they don't click, and you just brand recognition over and over again. So yeah, text ads can be super fun on LinkedIn too. In general, on ads, one of the things I really like to look at to help decide whether an ad can be scaled up, like if I'm about to ask the VP, can I please have more money for this campaign or that campaign, is in Google and in Bing, it's called impression share, like search impression share. And that tells you, there's a few different metrics inside that, but that tells you roughly of all the times that people could have seen your ad, how many times did they see your ad? And if you're already seeing those impression share metrics up 70% or higher, you could throw more money on that campaign, but you probably can't get a lot more visibility. You can just probably pay more for almost exactly the same stuff. So that suggests to you, hey, it's time to go and look at some other campaign. And on social, a similar thing is called frequency, which just means how often did people see your ad. And if your frequency is also, you're already showing people your ad 10 times a week, doubling that to 20 times by doubling the spend, you're probably not going to make a lot more conversions that way. So I like those metrics as ways of just gauging, can I actually put more into these? Is there potential here? Or do I have to find something new if I want to scale up the ads?
And I think that's a good point. Like, I'm very good at spending money, but I don't like wasting money. So by having those trackers, and I think UTM is the word of the day we're all going to take away with us today. If you have them in the right place, you know whether it makes sense or not. And those are great metrics to keep in mind. All right, let's circle back to a little more old school now. Email, I guess the original digital side of things. Amanda, what do you guys look at from that side of metrics?
So I look at opens and clicks, and amongst other things, but a disclaimer for opens and clicks is you really have to understand whether your marketing automation is removing bot activity and bot traffic. There's a lot of, so you have to really, if you're looking at clicks, you have to figure out what link they're actually clicking on. If it's the very first link within the email, usually if you hyperlink your header image or logo image, and that's where you're getting all of your clicks, it's most likely bot traffic, because some email servers will automatically open to scan an email, and they'll click on the first email to see if the recipient, if the sender is spam or what else. So if you're looking at clicks, really try to figure out where that link is within the email. But from it, I'm really, whatever my call to action is, that's what I want to focus on. Whether my email did a great job of, if it's a form fill, whether driving people conversions from that form fill. If it's if I want them to read a blog, looking at the page traffic for the blog, the click and the page, and associating the two together. It's really that putting your metrics to align with what your strategy is. So if it's a video, looking at the video plays from the video. If it's a webinar, you're promoting a webinar, looking at how many people have registered from the webinar, and trying to use source codes. If you can't use a UTM, but trying to use source codes from like GoToWebinar, something super easy to track. It's very beneficial as well.
Cool. Mike, what about you from the email perspective? Do you have
Sure.
any
So full disclaimer, I'm a little rusty on email. All the great email stuff that comes from Encore is coming from my teammates, not me. But in the past, there's two things I want to mention that I found really useful when I have been focused on email. One is comparing open rates to times since subscribe. So you get somebody to subscribe and you're sending them emails every day, hopefully not every day, but maybe every week or every month. And if there's a really sharp drop off early on, that suggests that all those subscribers you're excited about may be dissatisfied with their finding. Or you might also find that your open rate goes really well until the third or fourth item in your cadence. And then that tells you, oh, there's something to fix about that item. That's turning people off, reporting people. So open rates compared to time since subscribe tells you whether people are becoming loyal, they're developing a habit. Another thing that I like to look at in email is just keeping track of subscribe and unsubscribe rates, and remembering that unsubscribes aren't always bad, because sometimes people signed up for the wrong list. Like we're B2B, most people in the world are not getting value from our emails. They should unsubscribe, and that's actually good. And so keep track of the subscribe and unsubscribe, but don't immediately panic when you have lots of unsubscribes. That can just mean you got the wrong people earlier and now they're realizing they should leave.
I think one of the key messages that we're seeing today is, we have a crystal ball now, and it's called, analytics and how things work in the background. Before, we used to send that email and hope for the best, whereas now we can go back and look at what's going on and how's it fixing itself. So I think keeping with that, okay, what's the persona, what is our objective, and how is it reacting afterwards, and being agile is kind of the name of the game today. So lastly, when we look at events, Shayna, what are some of the metrics that you look at from that side of things?
Yeah, so I've been doing events for a long time, both in person, gigantic conferences with lead scanners, and virtual events, which during the pandemic just skyrocketed, webinars, things like this. And I think one of the most important things to not get too hung up on is particularly for virtual events, is like your registration numbers, right? Because video lives forever. So if you only get 20 registered for a webinar, but it's going to be like really rich content, maybe the date isn't good for a lot of people, maybe it's the end of the quarter, people are busy. Run it anyway, right? Don't reschedule, don't worry too much about how many people are going to show up live. Run it, record it, and use that video content on social and email, across the website, wherever you need it. It is the most evergreen kind of content you can have. So not getting too hung up on registrations, though obviously, seeing 100 plus registrations, you get very excited, or I do. The other thing that we look at, the other thing we look at is ops created from these events, right? So leads generated is great. We want to, when you're going to one of these big, 1,000+ person conferences and you have a lead scanner at the booth and you're beeping all day on badges, we try to really train our team to only scan hot leads, not just every person who comes by the booth looking for a pin or t-shirt, but having a conversation with somebody before you putting them into the system, so that hopefully, our ratio of leads generated to open actual opportunities is pretty good, right? And we waste less time on the BDRs or the SDRs reaching out to a bunch of folks that aren't really in our ICP. So yeah, definitely like created opportunities from webinars. We look at both created ops and influenced opportunities, since webinars are very top of funnel sometimes and they get tossed into our nurture stream often. So yeah, all sorts of good stuff there from, and with events, you're always justifying for in-person events huge costs, right? Like a webinar, no big deal. It's time you put into it, and maybe if you do a giveaway. 2,500 person in-person 10 by 10 booth event could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Like just depending on the event. And so when you're trying to justify that kind of ROI, you really gotta focus on the opportunities that are created and how long they take to close.
Oh, that's so true. Like we have got used to having only digital events where it didn't cost us anything, and now going back to in-person events, and you're like, how much does that cost again? And just flights and meals and all that stuff that you have to include that we don't always think about. So no, super important. We are going to take a quick commercial break for me to say thank you to Marketing Copilot. They help technology companies build marketing funnels and sales funnels that launch deals. Their proven methodology will help drive more leads at a lesser cost, ensuring that these leads are not mismanaged and to ultimately grow revenue. Thank you, Marketing Pilot, for supporting us and the whole channel. And please go check out their website. It's a really slick website as someone in the marketing world. So go check them out. And thank you. Now back to our regular scheduled program. My son is 5. He has no idea what a commercial is. He's just on Netflix. So I'm glad all of us can still laugh about going back and commercial breaks. So I guess now, I think Paula, you had the question before on scorecards and how do we collect all these metrics for reporting. So who in your company do you share this data with? Like, it's fun to know it for yourself and to have that personal validation, but who else within your company do you normally share this information out with? I'll start with you, Amanda.
One point I think I skipped on, so if I can just go back for a second.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So when we think about cost per conversion, we definitely have to make sure what we're considering, what we're putting into that cost. Is it just media placement, or is it a management fee, a vendor fee? If we are, like you said before, there's lots of third-party companies that we can hire to perform these campaigns for us. And whether some companies also want to consider their internal costs, because everything we do, we have our hours behind. So whenever you think of cost per lead and cost per opportunity, we have to make sure that you're aligning it across the board. I personally like to think of, I include media fee as well as any vendor or management fee with that. So if you do hire someone to run any ads for you and the cost per lead is $100, you're like, wow, this is awesome. But then you're paying them thousands of dollars to run these campaigns. where's that going towards your budget? And if you exclude that, then your budget isn't properly tracking the cost per lead for your company, as well as the cost per opportunity for your company. Okay, so getting back to this, you said the question was, who am I sharing information to, and how often? So I like to do a monthly overview. Definitely for myself, if I don't get to present it to others, it's really good to make sure that you're staying on top of it and you're having a nice cadence and follow through. You know, some months are going to be a little bit lower. You have to consider the timing, like January is a slow month. July could be a slow month for a lot of B2B with vacations. So I generally like to have all information on hand to present. We have regular go-to-market meetings. So I like to look at MQLs, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, opportunities created, and bookings. In a previous position, I had dashboards created. So that SIFE program that I mentioned before, it was great to have that. I gave logins to people so that they can go in and check it out at any time and see kind of where we were. And then we actually did a full marketing measurement overhaul project that we did that combined our CRM data with our Google Analytics data with our marketing automation data, and we pushed that into Power BI. So that was a huge heavy lift, but super beneficial in terms of optimizing campaigns and making sure we were utilizing the correct budget for everyone. But even if no one asked for this information or this data, you should know it. When it comes to in-depth campaigns, I've never had to really go through and provide like, this is our number of opens and clicks and whatever for this campaign, but you should do it. You should know it, because when you run that campaign again, you need to build off of that campaign and learn from it. So even if no one's asking for it, know your numbers.
That's great advice.
Excellent. All right. What about you, Shayna? What kind of dashboards, or who do you share your information with?
Yeah, so we do a monthly marketing data meeting. So we're very much a startup at SourceDay, but we have about 6 people on our marketing team, including our CMO. So we get together once a month. We update this deck that is like what you just said, Amanda. You know, bookings, ops, MQLs, SQLs. And then each of us have kind of a detail slide where we dive, like I dive a little bit into, here's the webinars that are performing, and here's, you know, the ops created from webinars. And then, you know, my direct report will be like, here's the ops from the conference we went to, right? So we do that once a month, and we present that to our RevOps team, which is 2 people. So they manage all of our Salesforce data. We are integrated with Marketo and Salesforce. So a lot of our marketing stuff we track through Salesforce dashboards. So those are always live. Anybody could see those. And then we present it to our CRO as well, who leads our sales organization. So that's kind of a smaller meeting just for us to really align with sales, make sure our data matches their data, and make sure that there's no data we're not sharing that they need. We also share it, with our BDR manager, so that he knows, you know, because we work so closely with our BDRs, our business development representatives, as far as handing them leads, and we need to make sure that what they're getting from us is quality. We just had that meeting this morning. So we do it the first week of every month. And then I have separate spreadsheets where I track webinar performance by webinar. And then the website performance, I have a separate spreadsheet, which is really just funneling data from Google Analytics and Salesforce. But those are really for me, right? Just to look on a monthly basis and be like, wow, like I saw this morning that our demo requests doubled in April from March. And it's like, oh, well, now I gotta go figure out why, right? So, and I gotta do it again, whatever it was. And so stuff like that, I agree. It's important for you to know how your campaigns are performing. My boss, our CMO, never takes me aside and is like, what was the click-through rate of that very specific email you sent for this? And she's never gonna ask me, but I need to know, so that the next time I'm running that campaign, I don't make the same mistakes, or I replicate what worked really well for us. I think Paula also asked, like, how much time are you spending on this? And that's a really great question. A bit. And I think it depends on your budget for putting everything into a dashboard. You know, obviously Salesforce does a lot of the work for us. We just have to run the report, and it spits it out, and there we go. Depending on your budget, if you're not integrated with stuff like that, you know, it's a little bit more manual. You have to spend more time. I used to work for a company where we did quarterly business reports. and marketing would do it as well. And I would spend 3 days just buried in data, right? Trying to put together this deck. Now, I don't think that's particularly efficient. And I think it's important to remember not to get too in the weeds with folks who aren't in marketing, right? If you don't need to give somebody a spreadsheet. You should never be giving somebody a spreadsheet, right? You should be giving them a number or a visual graph, right, to show what's going on. Otherwise, you just open yourself up to like extremely difficult conversations that get you nowhere. So I think it could be fun to get in the weeds, and I get in the weeds on my own, and I'm like, ooh, look at what's happening here. But when you're presenting to executives, or you're trying to ask for budget, or you're, whatever, it's important to keep it as high level as possible, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. And go for it.
Sorry, you made want to point out something you said that is huge, is that sales and marketing alignment, and making sure that you're reporting on the same things. Because sales has their own dashboards, and when you look at your numbers, you have to make sure they coincide. And the dashboard that I was looking at from sales removed all solicitations and all test leads, where sometimes as marketing we don't dive into all of that and make sure that we do remove it, but we need to make sure that there's alignment there. So my numbers are reported to our VP of marketing, our VP of sales, our marketing ops person who helps with the campaigns, and our business development, our BDM. So so some really great points. I just want to make sure that everyone, huge sales and marketing alignment.
Just this morning in our, I was talking about how our website traffic has increased, 100% from this time last year. And our RevOps guy was like, that's awesome. Have our demo requests also increased 100%? Or is it the same conversion rate? We're just seeing more traffic. And I was like, good point. Not sure. Gonna go figure it out today. Right. So having those number sales minded people in that meeting will also improve your reporting. Right. Because I wouldn't have thought of that. I was just like, look at this increase. And they're like, right. Let's talk about the bottom of the funnel though. Did that also influence that? And I'm pretty sure it did, but I'm gonna figure it out this afternoon.
You always bring the salespeople and you're like, what's in it for me? And then they'll tell you what's really useful or what's
makes
not.
You a better marketer.
It really does. As much as sometimes you think they're challenging you on things, but in the end, it really does make you a better marketer and helps them appreciate what you do, and vice versa. You're not spitting out all these ebooks if no one really cares. And I think that's super important as well. Mike, why don't you tell us a bit about any stats that you track that have helped you gain more budget in the past? You're talking when you go and you ask for more money. What are some of your favorites or your go-tos?
I actually want to share a brief story where I asked to reduce budget on something. We were running some ad campaigns. We had two major groups of ad campaigns. There were search ads, they're in Google and they're in Bing. And one group of them was delivering leads, and it was the cost per click, everything looked fine. But the quality of the leads, when you talk to sales, the quality of the leads wasn't there, the revenue wasn't there. And so I thought to myself, maybe I'll take the money from that one and give the money to this other ad group. So I looked at the other ad group, which was performing well and was bringing people to the right page of the site, and they were behaving the way we want and everything. But the impression share on that ad group was already way up 70, 80, meaning I was already showing pretty much everybody the ad all the time. And so I realized I couldn't responsibly spend the extra money on the new campaign. So I ended up saying to the VP, please, can we reduce spend on ads? I don't have time to make a new campaign this particular month to try out something new. And some other part of the business can definitely use this money more efficiently than this.
That's a good point. We sometimes forget about the opposite side, but spending money just to spend money, unless it's on shoes, don't do it. And so, on that note, we have flown by. I'm just gonna go into our closing questions for you guys, as I want to leave time for people to ask questions. I know we've gotten a couple, but keep them coming, because you guys are super resourceful and have lots of good things to say. So we're going to talk marketing. What has made you a smarter marketer by having stats in your life? Shayna, how about you kick us off with this one?
I love that word, smarketing. That's so funny. How have I not heard that? That's great. So I think, when I started my career, I was definitely much more of a words person. I was a content girl. I was a social media girl. You know, I have a background in graphic design, so I was all about branding. And I did not really pay attention to the numbers. I was just like, I'm going to make our brand as good as possible. I'm going to make our website look nice. And those things are important for sure. It's so important to have those creative minds on your team. But they are a fundamentally different role, right, than a demand generation focused marketing manager type role. And so, you know, one of my early jobs, I got hired under a woman who is just the most Marketo expert I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, just the way her brain works still astounds me to this day. And she threw me into we were literally onboarding with Marketo and Salesforce at the same time. And she threw me into it and she was like, learn it, take the classes, figure it out. I'm going to make you run email campaigns and build emails. And I was like, excuse me, what? And then, you know, from there it was, and now I need you to tell me if it worked. And I was like, what? So, you know, for reference, flunked calculus in college. So not a numbers gal, but doing that hard data work and getting comfortable with formulas and spreadsheets and, you know, proving worth and seeing the results of bigger budgets, promotions, right? And raises based on things like this, bonuses based on stuff like this. And then obviously just the success of the company was such a great reward that I immediately was like, oh, I get it, right? And so now I have, you know, I've worked my way to where I have this wonderful ability to both be this creative wordsmith, right, or graphic designer, but also tie it into these really critical campaigns that prove, you know, that stuff works, right? So it's really fun. I feel like I've really seen my career through all the way to revenue, right? Which is not something everyone gets to do. And I think is a really awesome opportunity. I've been blessed to work in some really amazing startups that give you that kind of visibility. And yeah, I think marketing statistics have made me a much more strategic marketer for sure.
Very, very cool and inspirational. Like, I'm like, yeah, let's go do it. Amanda, what about you?
So marketing metrics have made me a smarter marketer because they've allowed me to understand my audience better, like where they are, what they want to see, what types of content they interact with, how they want to be engaged. You know, we can hit them in so many different ways, but if we're not getting in front of them and we're not communicating the right message to them, we're going nowhere. But I think it's really important to align your metrics and what you want to track with your overall company's goals. And then you strategically figure out how to get there. Like, this is what matters to the company. This is what I can do in terms of a type of campaign to get there, and then following through with it and measuring it and making sure it all aligns. And I'm just a firm believer that the metrics should speak for themselves. So whatever that means to a company, if it's bookings and opportunities, let those numbers and those booking opportunities speak for it. I was at a company years ago, very early on in my career, which I think propelled this, is that they didn't think marketing had anything to do with anything. And I was like, I will show you our impact. And that's where I kind of got behind the numbers, and I really forced them to look at things and look at what we were doing. And we had e-commerce at the time, an aspect to it. We were a publishing company. There's an e-commerce aspect to it. And I was like, these are what our ads are producing. These are the click-throughs from it. This is the revenue from it. Our e-commerce is 60% of our sales. How can you not say marketing doesn't have an impact? And like, I think that it helped me also with my confidence too. So the whole career advancement, strategic, you know, if you have those numbers to help back you, they just speak for themselves, really.
Very inspirational as well, and very cool. Mike, take us home. What about you? How has it made you a marketer?
Okay, I want to tell one super tiny tactical thing. People mentioned Hotjar. Hotjar can be fantastic. I am currently using Crazy Egg. Not that it's better than Hotjar.
Crazy Egg also good.
So, yeah, it's a very similar thing. Scroll map, click tracking, and so on. I routinely put it on either a page I'm planning to change in 2-3 months or a page I've just launched to find out what part of the page users love. Do they love that infographic? Do they love the bullet points? What is the part? And then whatever that kind of feature of the content, that message or that layout is, just put it closer to the top, make it easier to get to, and put it on the next piece. And you can just scale up the tactics by seeing what's working at an individual page level in a tool like Crazy Egg or like Hotjar.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can do less if you're tracking and you figure out where the success is. You can overall do less, do more of what works and less of everything else.
I think that's it. It's the notion, Mike, what you were talking about, learning what works and what doesn't work is equally important. So we have to work smarter with less sometimes, and do more with less, and that's a great way to do it. So I want to say thank you all. I can't believe that the hour is already up. I'm sure we could have done another hour if we let ourselves go a little more. So thanks again to all three of you. A special thank you to Marketing Copilot for helping us out. Shameless plugs, our next June chat will be all about videos. So please come, always a hot topic. Come join us for that one. That's going to be on June 14th. Visit our website as well. If you've missed any of these in the past, if this is your first one, we have blog articles on all of our past ones. We have some video snippets so that you can pick up the best tips and tricks from previous calls. And last shameless plug, we have a job board. So if anyone is recruiting in the marketing space, this is always a good place to find people who may be looking for new opportunities and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we do not give out the recordings just because we want people to be present and come to our sessions. But we do have like 5-7 minute sessions that are available with us. So oh yes, and if you like what Amanda had to say today, she has a job posting right now. She's awesome. Please go work with her. Thank you again, everyone, for your time today. Please if you have any comments, questions, ideas for future ones, after June, we're going to be taking a quick summer break. So we will take all of our ideas for the upcoming fall season. Thanks again. Have a good one, everyone.